Hey everyone. Holy crap. These socialists, no matter what area or what province they are in Canada, a socialist is a socialist is a socialist. And it's not just in Canada, all over the world. These socialists, they have some, I guess, there's some areas where I can agree with them as far as some of their social policies, as far as freedoms for the working class or stuff. I mean, I'm totally on board with some of the rhetoric socialists espouse, which is why I'm trying to point this out right now. It's like, I don't hate on socialists for everything that they stand for. There's some areas in some regards that socialists, like, the working class and standing up for those people. I'm totally fucking on board with that. But once again, it always comes down to what defines someone that's being morally consistent or objectively reasonable or honest in their approach is what means or what measures do you undertake to implement your ideas or your preferences. And once again, headline out of CBC News, Rachel Notley is showing that these socialists, sometimes even their greatest ideas or their greatest intentions can be completely destroyed by the fact that they always seem to want to use force, the gun in the room, as a means to an end. So just like the right-wing counterparts, these far leftists always seek out some means or measure to impose or enforce their ideas by way of mandates or imposition on people who are acting peacefully. Authoritarians, folks. Collectivists and authoritarians. Headline: Alberta willing to buy Trans Mountain pipeline if necessary, Premier says. So think about what this fucking Notley piece of shit. And Jordan Peterson knew all about her family, so if you want to listen to, he's discussed what the Notleys are all about. Basically, like I say, some of them might have been decent people. Maybe they had good intentions. But once again, your intentions, the minute you, once again, government, look up the definition of government, folks. We got to define their terms, and there's a defined meaning for government, and it's all about using force as a means to an end. A monopoly on force and violence, or a threat thereof. So, no matter how benevolent you are, or how much goodness you might have in your heart, if you're using the gun to impose your mandates or edicts, which is what the government is doing at this point, and what Notley is suggesting to do, is you got to remove that pretense of benevolence the minute force is entered into the equation, folks. Come on. I mean, if I could say that, oh, my kid needs food, but if I go out and steal it from someone else, even though I helped my kid, I committed a violent and a criminal act that was a means to the end. And that's never a proper way to do anything. But I mean, to suggest that Alberta is willing to buy the pipeline, that's to suggest that you're going to economically enslave the citizens of Alberta, whether they want it or not. And economical enslavement is really bad. It's very immoral, Rachel. How have you not figured that out? You're an adult. You're actually, based on the wrinkles on your fucking face, you're an older woman, like myself. You're not just an adult. You've lived long enough that you should understand the difference between right and wrong. Moral habits and immoral acts and immoral deeds. So I'm not going to give you any pretense or any excuse that you don't understand the relevance of morality or of voluntary choice. So I don't give a shit what you use or what you claim as a means to an end, as far as, oh, you care about the people of Alberta. If you're using force as a means to an end, your pretense of benevolence, it's gone. It's out the window. Alberta Premier Rachel Notley says the province will buy the Trans Mountain Pipeline project outright if that's what it takes to get it built. Who cares how many people I have to socially or economically enslave, or how many successive generations, those haven't even born yet. Who cares how many of those are going to have to be forced to pay for all this bullshit? Let's just get her done, right? On Tuesday morning, Notley said the federal government should be willing to put money into the project as well. Yeah, so, hey, why just do a province-wide forced subjugation as far as economics goes? Let's do it across the whole country. Let's equally redistribute the wealth of all Canadians, not just the people of Alberta. Let's just steal from all Canadians. At least in that way, I guess that's a pretense. Well, it'll be a smaller number from each individual that we will steal from them. And maybe then they won't complain as much. Like I say, these are immoral, lying, corrupt pieces of shit. Hey, they're politicians. Then in a statement issued later in the day, the Premier said buying the pipeline is one of many options being considered to get construction ramped up on the project, which would triple the amount of oil going from Alberta to the BC coast. Well, guess who's in the way of all that? More politicians, more bureaucracy, and more of these lobbyists, these groups that are lobbying governments to prevent this shit from happening. So once again, it's just at the core of it all, folks, it's government. But yet you fuckers just want to continuously, or some of you out there just continually want to keep promoting these authoritarians, those in government. Whether they come from the left side of the political spectrum or the right, once again, politics is all about picking winners or losers rather than letting market fundamentals, morality, and entrepreneurial zeal and innovation be the means to an end. You know, things that are all done under voluntary means and measures. The pipeline builder Kinder Morgan announced it was scaling back on the federally approved $7.4 billion project because of opposition and delays from the BC government. Kinder Morgan has given the federal government until May 31st to offer concrete assurance the line will get built, and Notley has repeatedly called on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to take action. We are considering a number of financial options to ensure that the Trans Mountain expansion is built, up to and including purchasing the pipeline outright if we're to come to that, Notley said Tuesday in a statement. But it's not the only model we're considering. Oh, so, forced subjugation and theft, that's not your only option? Well, let's see what other options she's putting on the table here. Faced with stubborn opposition in BC and an ultimatum from Kinder Morgan, Notley initially suggested on Sunday that Alberta government might invest in the pipeline. Government doesn't invest. Government has no money, folks. Which is why they're all in debt. The only money they have is the promises of economically enslavement of, whether it's the generations that are alive today or future generations. They don't generate wealth. They're not a profit-making business. It's government. So they're just stealing. They're just plundering people to propagate their political or social or economic messaging or preferences. That's all it is. The market can do all this stuff much better. I mean, if you don't recognize that, well, it literally means that you're trying to reject the reality that actually exists all around you. In an interview Tuesday with the CBC Radio's Edmonton AM, the Premier said the federal government should be willing to do the same. They put a lot of money on the table for Bombardier. They put a lot of money on the table for GM when the auto industry went in crisis, Notley said. They've stepped up for other industries in other parts of the country and the workers that rely on those industries to support their families. And our view is that they're going to have to do it here soon. So, like I said, theft here, theft there, theft here, theft there, theft everywhere, but except us. So, hey, we want to do some of that. Hey, we want in on that theft. Why are we being left out in the cold? We want to steal from the taxpayer too. We want to economically enslave people too. And, we're a part of the economy that I think we should be able to economically enslave people at our whim as well. Hey, it's only fair, right? Think about what these people are trying to put forward, present. Anyways, I'll post a link to the article in the description of this video below. But like I say, these collectivists, these central planning types, like I said, morality, nah, they got none of that. Any understanding of common law or legality, nah, they refuse or reject any premise based upon that. Economic understanding or prudence, once again, they don't have that either. All they have as a government, as people go into government, what they do have in spades is the threat of force and violence as a means to an end. That's what they got. And when the only tool in your arsenal is a hammer, everything out on the landscape looks like a nail. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.